Well, hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you back after a long hiatus to the Pirate Peyton podcast. Yes, fall is coming, football season is coming, the summer is over, my sophomore year of college is approaching, and I plan to be back and running with things here on the Pirate Peyton podcast. This summer, I've been focusing on a podcast I've been doing with my friends at Point Park, Jake Bell and Nathan Shiven. Shout out to them. The We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. Go check that out and subscribe on YouTube. We would really much appreciate it. So I've been focusing on that. Kind of just took a break from this for now. Kind of had to rethink how I want to do some things. The first thing is I don't want every single one of my episodes to be just me talking. I think a lot of the time that will be, especially when football season gets going. But I wanted to, take the time to interview some people in my world or in my sports world in general to get better at that. And to, give different voices to this podcast because no one wants to hear me rant all the time, at least maybe not yet. So today's episode is exactly that. I have a interview with third-year head coach of the Northgate football Flames, Christopher Lucas, and we talk about this upcoming year for Northgate. It's a critical one. Their roster is currently at 44. It's compared to that 5 years ago or 6 years ago. It's an incredible feat. Shout out to Coach Lucas and his staff for revamping this program, but this is the third year, and you'll hear in this episode, we talk about it, a lot of seniors, and there's a lot of these guys have been starting now. This is going to be their third year in the starting lineup. So I think there's an expectation within the school district and within that locker room and that coaching staff that this is going to be a team that's going to break out this year and get a playoff spot and possibly make a push for the playoffs. So a lot of excitement, but high school football at this level is about three things: who can dominate the line of scrimmage, who has the most depth, and who can stay healthy. I would say a positive thing for Northgate is they have experience on the offensive and defensive line, but we need to actually see a large improvement because they have struggled against teams in their conference in terms of stopping the run and getting the run game going. And they're facing a lot of the same similar type of teams in their conference this year, but they have experience. These kids are getting stronger, they're getting better, and they're in their senior year, a lot of them. In terms of depth, they definitely have depth and more positions than they did last year and especially the year before. Of course, based on my conversation with Coach Lucky, it kind of depends on the position, but I think we're going to see them open up the pass game a lot more. I think they have a lot more weapons than they did last year, especially guys coming off injury last year were supposed to be part of the receiving core that ended up getting injured, like Jordan Harrison, Anthony Hopkins. And by the way, if you're not too familiar with these names and the Northgate team, I'm going to have an article coming out next week in the Citizen newspaper. If you go to the citizen.us, the subscription is like really, 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 really cheap to read my article. So it'll come out next Friday right before their home opener. Excuse me, they're just season opener. They're not at home for a couple of weeks, but their opening game against Fort Cherry, the defending WPIAL champions in Class A with star quarterback who already has D1 offers, Matt Sieg. So that'll be a good test for them, for the Northgate Flames. They hung in there with them last year, and I think this year they expect to really compete. But back to what I was saying, depth, line of scrimmage, and then staying healthy. Of course, that just depends. But I think these kids under Coach Lucky, they've been committed to the weight room, and third time's the charm. I think through 3 years of really working out in the weight room and having guys with more experience, because as you'll hear in the interview, a lot of these guys they got from 3 years ago didn't really start playing football until this year, and they still get people like that. but it's a program that's building and it's ready to burst. So I'm gonna quit talking about that because I don't want to spoil the whole interview with Coach Lucas. By the way, thank you for your time, Coach. Before I get to that part, I do want to say please subscribe to the podcast if you're listening. We're gonna have a lot of NFL content coming up. Yes, I'm gonna talk about the Pirates. I know a lot of people want to hear that. We'll get through them and then move on because that's a painful topic. And planning on having a little bit of political content on this channel. I'm not going to share a lot of my views or anything, but I think this 2024 election cycle is very interesting and just worth discussing and talking about the recent events that have transpired and what's to come by November 5th. And the final thing I want to mention is, if you like these interview episodes, please give it a like and as I already said, subscribe. But please give this a like, give a 5-star review on Spotify, and I'll definitely keep doing these. And if you yourself are interested in an interview, you have something worth talking about, or if you know someone who would be worth giving an interview to, please reach out to me. If you have my number or my Snapchat, you could just text me. But if not, my Twitter is @PiratePeyton. Go follow me there, of course. And DM me, I guess, as people would say there, and let me know. So without further ado, here is head coach of the Northgate Flames, Christopher Lucas. Coach, thanks for joining me. Third year as head coach, 2024 season. The first thing I do want to ask you, uniform situation.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the right uniform?
We got the right red this year, yep.
It's looking good?
The vendor we used last year got that color wrong, and they got it fixed, and they're really nice. And so it's the actual, it's crimson red, not cardinal reds.
Right, yeah.
But they look sharp. They look really sharp.
Well, hopefully it'll bring a playoff berth. So good luck this year.
So whatever we can use to get there.
So the first thing I definitely want to ask is what the team program goals have been for the off season, and in terms of weight room and being more smarter and skilled on the field. How's that gone? How's the progress gone with that?
It's been great. When we took over 3 years ago, we wanted to build the numbers, get that set, get the standards set, and knowing that we wanted to try to make a run at the playoffs in year 3, which is coming up. I can't give enough credit to the kids. They have really bought into the program. They're driven and they work their tails off. Outside of most of the off season, as far as school went, we were in the 30s in the weight room every day. And then when we went to the summer, it's been mid 30s to 40, every day of the summer. Maybe our lowest day was maybe 33 or 34 kids. So they've really bought in. Coach Fratt does a great job with our strength program. So the strength over the last 2 years has just increased exponentially. Kids just are working their tails off. We've been on the field since March, starting and working on skill. Really put a focus on skill work this off season, and waited to the summer to start doing our scheme. So still a ton of work to do, and we only got 10 days till Fort Cherry.
What's been your motivation to the guys this year? I mean, I know before it was like setting the foundation. It's not about me. Then last year it was like, look where they're ranking us in the standings. Like, what's been your motivation for them?
I
this
think
year?
We got a huge senior class for the first time in a long time, and those kids, a lot of them were starters as 10th graders. I mean, I look at some of these pictures that we had from some of our team building stuff, and I mean, they just look like little kids. You look at Darius and Salty and Caleb and Jake. Like, you look at them, like, look at those baby faces, and they've just grown into young men. And honestly, I think it's just internal motivation by them. Like, they, as sophomores, wanted to see this program turn around. It's their time now. They've put in the work, And I think it's all internal motivation is what you want. If it has to be external, if the coach has got to motivate you every day to do these things, it's not going to be very, very good. So I'm going to give a lot of credit to the players.
And just going back on how the roster size has grown, if you look back 5 years ago, I mean, what do you think has been the key for you and your staff, like getting so much more interest and commitment with the program in a smaller school?
We do a lot of things. There could be various factors, right? We grew the coaching staff, so a lot more coaches that are interacting with these kids and building those relationships. We got a lot of kids 2 years ago that never played football before. Even now we're getting kids that never played football before. And I think we kind of push towards that, because I think even if they, wouldn't turn out to be a Division I football player, I think football offers a lot as far as growth and just building them up as into adults. And we do a lot of things. Our booster organization is really good. So we fundraise a lot. But with those fundraising, like Friday, we finished heat acclimation, and then we rented out Bellevue Pool and had a big old pool party. And the kids love that stuff. We went paintballing last year. We'll probably go bowling at some point, just to get those guys hanging out outside. And I think it just becomes more of a brotherhood there. We get them a ton of gear, so the guys see it around the school, and you start to piece together some wins, and people see, okay, this may be turning into something successful, and anytime you're winning, it kind of breeds that.
So I know going into last year, there were a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there were definitely a few changes within your coaching staff, people leaving, coming, going. That happens. It seems like this year, from looking out on the field, a lot of the same faces in terms of the adults.
I'll be honest with you. I haven't had much turnover at all.
Yeah.
It's the same guys for 3 years. We may have added.
Yeah, last year you guys added.
We added a couple, and even this year we added one or two. But these are the guys that have been with me since the start, and I think that that consistency and that familiarity, I think, helps a lot too, because it's not different guys every day. So again, it goes back to building those relationships with those kids, and they're not building them for 1 year and then they got somebody new next year. So, no, it's weird, because I get contacted all the time about people, do you have any spots on your coaching staff? And I say, yeah, I do, as a volunteer. Like, my guys don't leave, because they're all bought in 100% into what our mission is. And I wouldn't trade any of them. I mean, we have a great staff, and we have a great staff that builds relationships, has the knowledge, and just they want to be here and they want to work with these kids.
So going back to the seniors, I know you kind of touched on their impact, right? Like, this is a senior-led team, the offensive line, the defensive line, quarterback, running back. I mean, a lot of it. First of all, I want to talk about Santi, because he's going to be the last couple of years. It's been a 2 QB system. Mm-hmm. Now Austin graduated. I mean, how has he not handled being sole QB1 in terms of preparation and his ability as a passer?
Oh, he's grown tremendously. He's 200. I joke with him. I call him my 275-pound quarterback, but he's legit 230, 235 pounds. Worked his tail off in the off season. Still trying to get him to be more of a vocal leader, but I mean, he's here every day. He does everything you ask. He's developed as a passer, and we saw it last year. He can run the ball, but we're working a lot of our read stuff, and he's picking all those things up, and we're watching film, and he's just doing everything that's needed. And that's just quarterback-wise. I think he's one heck of a defensive player. And
he had a great year
I think he's going to have an even better year than last year on defense.
That's great. And then obviously, so you and Coach Fran Ramsden, right? Mm-hmm. He's the defensive coordinator, you're the offensive coordinator. Yep. Second year, both of you guys, right. So the players are, again, familiar with the system. And I know, obviously, I would assume that a lot of your game plan is around running the ball with Darius and Santi, but any adjustments, any type of changes to your approach this year with the offense?
No, I wouldn't say full changes, just additions. Like, we're growing the offense, right? So we're building in a lot more reads where we did them last year, but not a lot. And, we throw the ball a lot more. We have some good receivers out there. Sauny's starting to really take hold of reading the defenses. So I think if we can spread the field and use the whole field, that's gonna help us not only win ball games, but it's gonna help our running game as well.
Yes. And then obviously, the big thing for, especially in small lower 1A high school football, the line of scrimmage, these teams you're going to be facing, they run the ball. And again, it's a lot of the same guys. Like in the past, it's like, okay, we have a young group. Now it's like, okay, we have a veteran group of seniors on that offensive and defensive line. How have those guys kind of gelled together this year?
Yeah, again, when you look, a lot of those guys have been playing for 2 years, so this is their third year going in, and they've had Coach Long on the O-line through that whole time. So, yeah, they're gelling very well. I mean, we watch film. I mean, it's just night and day. But, again, I think, honestly, it's going to be, like you said, stopping the run. Like, that's our goal. Like, we can play the pass. We have struggled stopping the run, and it's just a physicality that we need to. It's a mentality, and that's what we've challenged our guys, that we got to bring up that physicality, and we have to be able to stop the run, especially in our conference, because our conference is loaded again, and these teams like to run the ball.
And how has stopping the run looked in practice? Do you see massive improvement from the years past?
I mean, yes, but until you're in that game situation, we're not gonna know until we'll know a little bit more Saturday,
right?
And we'll know a lot next week when we go to Fort Cherry.
Yeah.
So, I do see improvements. A lot has to do with the strength that they've gained, the size they've gained, and that comes with confidence. But it really is a mentality, and we won't know that truly until we get into those games.
Now, going to special teams a little bit, Austin, right? He was our big kick returner last year. Who's going to be on kick and punt return? I know Santi's going to be kicking the ball off a lot, I would assume, on the kickoffs and punts. Who do you guys have in there to trust to, first of all, take care of the ball and to make plays on special teams?
Yeah, Coach Lou is our special teams coordinator. He's been doing rotating some guys there. So we have some really good athletes. Darius obviously is going to be factored in. Anthony Barron, Savian Baptiste, Mike Koski, who's new to the team this year. All those guys have kind of been sharing the load. Salah Reason. So we have some guys that Coach Lou's kind of going through and seeing who he wants to go out there. But it's going to be a situation where we can get guys breaks this year. Like, we have depth at different positions. So it may not be the same guy all the time.
And actually, I want to backtrack because I wanted to ask you, because we talked about the seniors and the guys who have been here, but who are some new faces to the team, maybe some freshmen who are going to make an impact, or guys who have been here and they're going to make more of an impact this year?
Right. Yeah, we have some new guys that come in. Zion Ward is new to the district. He's going to be a junior. He's one of our fullbacks and one of our linebackers. Salah Reason, who moved here from out of state, is a new player, running back in DB. Mike Koski, who I mentioned, they moved over here from Bashir. So those are some new guys. Devontae Smith is an 8th grade quarterback coming up, who we have a lot of excitement for through the years. And, with anybody young, they're going through their growing pains and just kind of learning the system. But another great kid that we expect a lot from in the future, and has a great arm, very smart kid, good athlete. And, so we have some guys.
Do you expect to possibly use him in the offense, even if it's not at quarterback this year?
I could definitely see. I always like to get our next guy ready. So there's definitely going to be opportunities as he comes along and grows to be getting in there and kind of taking that role that maybe Santi had, where he went in periodically. Santi played a lot more last year, but definitely I want to get him some varsity reps and see what he can do in the game and start to get that experience.
Talking about the passing game, obviously Anthony Hopkins is back he was injured last year. Anthony Barron, who else do you expect to see make plays on at the receiver position?
That's probably one of our toughest positions because we have so many guys that are vying for those spots. So you mentioned those guys. Jordan Hairston, who's going to be a sophomore.
He was hurt last year.
So he has looked great. Ray Wathier, who played some for us last year, is one of our receivers. Will Smith, Mike Koski. So all those guys are kind of vying for time, and it's nice having that competition because if a guy has a down day, then that next guy gets bumped up a little bit.
Seems like you guys just have a lot of depth this year, and that should definitely help you guys in the long run.
At certain positions, we do. Yeah, at certain positions.
Yeah.
We're very young on the O-line after our starters. So
right.
But that's a good thing because then we'll have those guys for 4 years. So
right.
3 or 4 years. So that'll be good building those guys up and getting them ready.
Now this is another big thing in terms of 1A football. A lot of teams often go for 2 because they don't have the kicker. And I saw just in practice there, you got a lot of different guys trying extra points. Are you trying to incorporate extra points more than 2-point conversions, or is it going to depend on the situation? Who may possibly step up?
I would love to be able to kick some extra points for once. So Coach Lou's trying a bunch of guys out there with an open competition, and we started to get some live action with them, and we'll see who does the best.
Still, it's a wait and see kind of thing.
Still wait and see. Yep.
And then finally, just the schedule this year. Obviously, you take it week to week, but then a new conference as well. Tell us about some of the opponents you guys may be circling a little extra on the calendar this year.
Well, it's the same conference.
Essentially, yeah.
But Neshannock came down and Union went up to Double-A, so it didn't get any easier. Because
Neshannock's a great
football program. So honestly, it's every week in our conference. There's nobody that we're going to circle because we got to. There's all these teams. There's not going to be an easy game in conference all year, and even out of conference. We have Fort Cherry in week 0. Who that's going to be a great test for us to really see where we're at, and then we play a couple of Double-A teams before we get into conference play. But we have good teams in our conference. We have well-coached teams in our conference, and we just got to take one week at a time.
And that's the last thing I wanted to mention is non-conference games, because of how the Whitfield changed their playoff format. It's like there's like essentially they are it's like the college football playoff committee almost, but in terms of Whitfield, and they look at those non-conference games and how you guys did. So if you guys, as your staff reiterated, like that we have to be extra prepared early on in the season, because these games, if we do really well against a Fort Cherry and against some of these Double-A teams, that could really help us for our push to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past, it's never that we kind of just said, oh, well, it's non-conference. We want to win every game that we play.
Right.
Yeah, we did have that discussion. Like, these non-conference games do matter when it comes to playoffs, possibly. If you take one of those top 3 spots, they don't matter because you get an automatic bid at it. But, yeah, if you're on the bubble with your record, then, you knock off a Fort Cherry, that's going to be huge on the committee. So,
right.
Every one of these games matters, and the guys are excited to get in our shot at Fort Cherry.
All right, Coach. Good luck. Looking forward to watch it from the PA announcer's booth. And
glad you're up there again.
Let's go Flames, man.
All right.